Why does happiness disappear almost as soon as you finally get what you wanted? You finish the project, you get the raise, the person calls back. For a few hours, maybe a few days, life feels lighter. Then the mind quietly moves the finish line. There is a new target, a new threat, a new version of you who still does not feel finished. Mara had spent 11 weeks believing Brightcart's holiday campaign stood between her and relief. On the morning it launched, the numbers were better than anyone expected. By lunch, her work was being praised across the company. By 2 o'clock, she had received the opportunity she thought she wanted. And by sunset, Mara was less happy than she had been the day before, because sometimes getting what you want does not end the problem. It reveals the problem you were using the goal to avoid. Hi, I'm Sarah, and this is Wise Mind Stories. In this episode, you'll learn why permanent happiness is the wrong target, why every meaningful life contains problems, and how to choose a struggle that gives pain a purpose instead of treating pain as proof that life has failed. At 8:04 Monday morning, Brightcart's campaign went live. At 8:19, the client's online traffic was already 40% above forecast. At 9:03, Helen Ward sent a message to the executive channel. Mara's team found the human truth in this launch. Pay attention. Mara took a screenshot. She did not know why. Maybe because praise felt safer when it could be stored. At 10:30, Helen called her into the glass office, overlooking the river. The board wants a new consumer trust initiative, Helen said. Company-wide, bigger budget, more visibility. Mara tried not to smile too quickly. Who's leading it? That's what I'm asking you. For 11 weeks, Mara had pictured this exact moment. Recognition, authority, a door opening. She waited for the wave of certainty that was supposed to arrive with it. Instead, a smaller thought spoke first. What if I can't do it twice? Helen slid a folder across the desk. Preliminary plan by Friday. The opportunity was 45 seconds old, and Mara was already afraid of losing it. This is one of the central paradoxes in the subtle art of not giving a F times sec. Solving problems makes us happy, but happiness does not mean reaching a life with no problems. Problems do not disappear. They get exchanged. Or, if we are fortunate, upgraded. The person without a job has the problem of finding work. The person with a job may have the problem of managing pressure, conflict, or meaning. The person without love may feel lonely. The person with love must face vulnerability, compromise, and the possibility of loss. Every door removes one problem and introduces another. The fantasy is not that we will solve our way out of difficulty. The opportunity is to solve our way into better difficulty. A better life is not problem-free. It is filled with problems worthy of you. At noon, Mara met Julian and Theo in the project room. The campaign metrics glowed on the screen. Theo handed her a coffee. You did it. We did it, Mara corrected automatically. But she was no longer looking at the successful campaign. She was looking at a blank presentation labeled Consumer Trust Initiative. The board presentation is Friday, she said. Julian blinked. This Friday? Yes. Then maybe we celebrate for 12 minutes before starting our next nervous breakdown. Theo laughed. Mara did not. She began assigning research. The victory had lasted less than 3 hours. At 1:12, Ben texted. Biopsy Thursday. Your dad wants us there this weekend. Mara read the message under the conference table. The scan had shown a mass near Tom's pancreas. The doctor had used careful language. More information, several possibilities, no conclusions yet. Mara replied, Of course. Leaving Friday night. Then she returned to a conversation about trust metrics. The mind loves measurable problems when the meaningful ones cannot be controlled. On Friday evening, Mara, Ben, and Lucy drove north toward Milwaukee. Tom's house stood on a quiet street lined with wet autumn leaves. He had lived there for 32 years. The porch light still flickered before warming. The hallway still smelled faintly of cedar and the coffee he drank too late at night. Lucy ran inside and wrapped herself around his waist. Tom winced, almost invisibly. Mara saw it. "You okay?" 8-year-olds are stronger than they look. He smiled, and Mara allowed the joke to close the door. Denial does not always look like refusing facts. Sometimes it looks like accepting the smallest available explanation because the larger one would require us to feel something we do not want to feel. That night, Tom grilled burgers in the cold. Ben repaired a loose cabinet hinge. Lucy built a blanket fort in the living room. It was exactly the kind of evening Mara had imagined wanting when work became less busy. But work had not become less busy. It had become more important. At 7:36, Mara checked the campaign dashboard. Traffic had flattened. At 7:41, she checked again. One region was below forecast. At 7:52, Helen sent a question about Friday's trust proposal. Mara stepped into the hallway to answer. At 8:10, Ben found her in Tom's study with her laptop open. "Your dad asked if you wanted to see the old train set. In a minute." "You said that 20 minutes ago. Helen needs this." Ben leaned against the doorframe. "Does she?" The question irritated Mara because it was not really about Helen. "This is the opportunity I've been working toward." "I know." "Then why are you making me feel guilty?" Ben looked at her for a long moment. "I didn't say anything about guilt." He left. Mara stared at the laptop. The first episode's lesson had seemed so clear. Stop giving trivial things the same importance as meaningful ones. But now the problem was harder. Her work was not trivial. Her ambition was not meaningless. Her family mattered, and so did the chance to build something good. The question was no longer, "What should I ignore?" It was, "Which pain am I willing to live with?" Manson argues that this is often the more honest question. People say they want a successful career, but do they want the uncertainty, repetition, criticism, and responsibility attached to it? People say they want a close relationship, but do they want the uncomfortable conversations, the sacrifices, and the risk of being truly known? People say they want to be healthy, but do they want early alarms, boring meals, slow progress, and the humility of beginning badly? Wanting the reward is easy. Choosing its recurring pain is the commitment. Your dream is not what you want once. It is the problem you are willing to solve repeatedly. In the book, Manson invents a superhero called Disappointment Panda, an uncomfortable truth teller who arrives to say the things no one wants to hear. Disappointment Panda would have told Mara that her new opportunity was not a ticket out of stress. It was an invitation to a more demanding form of stress. He would have told her that loving her father did not protect her from the fear of losing him. It guaranteed that fear. And he would have told her that the question, "How can I be happy?" is often too vague to change a life. A better question is, "What pain do I want?" Mara closed the laptop. In the basement, Tom was kneeling beside a plywood table covered in miniature tracks. The train set had belonged to Mara's mother. After she died, Tom packed it away because every tiny house seemed to contain a memory. Now Lucy was placing plastic trees beside the station. "Grandpa says you always made the train crash," Lucy said. "That is historical revisionism," Mara replied. Tom looked up. "You drove it backward at full speed. Once. Every Christmas for 6 years." Lucy laughed. Mara sat on the concrete floor, still holding her phone. It vibrated. She turned it face down. For 30 minutes, the train circled the track. Nothing extraordinary happened. That was the point. Later, after Lucy fell asleep, Tom found Mara on the porch. "You don't have to stay all weekend," he said. "I want to." That wasn't the question. Mara pulled her coat tighter. Tom looked older in the porch light. Not weak, just more finite. "Your mother used to wait for life to calm down," he said. "Then she got sick. And you know what she told me?" Mara shook her head. "It never calms down. It only changes what it asks from you." The sentence frightened Mara because it removed another finish line. She had organized her life around the promise of later. After the launch, she would be present. After the promotion, she would breathe. After Lucy became more independent, there would be time. After Tom's test results, she would know how worried to feel. But later was not a place. It was a story she used to avoid choosing now. The next morning, the biopsy center called. Tom put the phone on speaker at the kitchen table. The doctor explained that the mass was malignant. More imaging would determine the stage. Treatment options would follow. Mara heard the words individually, as if they were objects being placed on the table. Malignant. Imaging. Treatment. Tom asked practical questions. Ben wrote notes. Lucy was in the backyard collecting red leaves and did not yet know. Mara felt panic rise. Then another feeling arrived on top of it. This cannot be happening now. The proposal was due. The campaign was live. The holidays were coming. Her father's illness seemed to violate the schedule of the life she had planned. That was the emotional reversal. Mara had believed her unhappiness came from having too many problems. But some of her deepest unhappiness came from believing she was not supposed to have them. Pain was not interrupting life. Pain was part of the contract. Manson describes suffering as biologically useful. Physical pain tells us to remove a hand from heat. Emotional pain also carries information. Grief reveals attachment. Anxiety can reveal uncertainty or a threatened value. Shame may expose a conflict between action and identity. Emotions are signals, not commands. We become trapped when we either worship them or deny them. Denial says, "Nothing is wrong." Victimhood says, "Everything is wrong, and nothing I do matters." Both positions avoid solving the next real problem. Mara could not solve cancer. She could ask the next question. "Dad," she said, "what do you need this week?" Tom exhaled. "A ride Tuesday." "Done. And I need you not to turn me into a project." Ben looked down, hiding a smile. Mara almost protested. Then she nodded. "I can try." "Good. Because you're terrifying with a spreadsheet." They laughed. The diagnosis did not become easier, but it became specific. There was an appointment Tuesday. There was a frightened father who wanted to remain a person. There was a daughter who needed the truth in language she could hold. There was work that mattered, but not in every hour. Happiness, in Manson's framework, comes through solving problems not because the solutions create a permanent state of pleasure, but because meaningful engagement makes life move. The quality of a life is shaped by the quality of the problems a person chooses and the values used to solve them. Mara's old problem was how to avoid criticism. Her better problem was how to do honest work without disappearing from her family. Her old problem was how to feel certain. Her better problem was how to love someone through uncertainty. Neither problem was painless, but one kind of pain made her smaller. The other asked her to grow. Pain does not tell you that life is broken. Sometimes it tells you where life is alive. On Monday, Mara walked into Helen's office with the preliminary plan. "I can lead this," she said. "But I need one boundary. No Friday night turnarounds unless something is genuinely on fire." Helen studied her. "You okay?" Mara could have said yes. Instead, she said, "My father has cancer." The words changed the room. Helen closed the folder. "Take Tuesday. The board will still be a board on Wednesday." Mara nodded. Outside the office, Julian was waiting with coffee and 3 questions about the proposal. The next problem had already arrived. For the first time, Mara did not take that as evidence that happiness had failed. It was evidence that life was continuing. Sarah closing. The answer to today's question is simple, but not easy. Getting what you want does not create permanent happiness because life is not designed to remain solved. Every meaningful choice introduces a new set of problems. The goal is not to escape struggle. The goal is to choose a struggle that is worth becoming someone for. Here is today's experiment. Name one good problem you would be proud to keep solving. Not an outcome you want to possess. A problem you are willing to meet repeatedly. Maybe it is learning how to communicate honestly with your partner. Maybe it is becoming excellent at difficult work. Maybe it is caring for your health, even when progress is slow. Write one sentence. The pain I am willing to practice is. If Wise Mind Stories helps you turn ideas into choices, subscribe and continue this journey with us. Mara has accepted that an ordinary life will contain pain. But the new bright cart role creates a more private fear. If she struggles publicly, what if everyone discovers she was never exceptional at all? And why does being ordinary feel so much like failure? Wise Mind Stories quotable lines. A better life is not problem-free. It is filled with problems worthy of you. Your dream is the problem you are willing to solve repeatedly. Later is not a place. It is a story we use to avoid choosing now. Pain does not always mean life is broken. Sometimes it shows where life is alive. Next episode, teaser. Mara agrees to lead Brightcart's most visible initiative while her father begins treatment. She tells herself she can handle both if she proves she deserves the opportunity. But when the promotion above her goes to someone else, her hunger to be exceptional will not make her work better. It will make the people around her afraid to fail.